Okay, welcome back. I got disconnected. It may disconnect me again, so if that happens, I'm not gonna do it. Usually it disconnects repeatedly when it does it once. So this works. You feel like connecting, Mr. G-Wiz? There you go. Either G-Wiz or that other guy who always watches all my streams. I'm impressed that I have 2 active watchers. It's impressive. Oh, I have 26 subscribers. Can you believe that? Like 2 years ago, I had 8. At this rate, I'm gonna reach 100 in like 3 years, 2 years. Amazing. By the time I'm 50, I'm gonna have 1,000. Woo! Okay, so back to the topic at hand, the Kazakhstani reform model. I'm doing this in Kazakhstan because I tried with the map to discuss with the countries on who wants to do this. And there were a few who were willing, who had the opinion that they could try this. And with the discussion, it turned out that Kazakhstan was the most liking of this idea of doing this reform with us. And it seems, though I'm not certain about it, it does indeed seem like the shadow government is implementing for me my reforms. Because once I did this reform policy, I noticed that the goods I buy lowered in their cost and increased in how much they have in their value, while the social services also went down, which is the deflationary cycle. So I ended up getting more for less, which is what we're aiming for here. We're trying to increase the value of the domestic goods. This is because when trouble comes and when times become tough, the government can actually print more money and increase the inflation rate instead of taxing. And it's only possible when the value of the currency is high. When it is already low, you can't do that. And this is interesting. So any comments, theories, suggestions, I would be glad to answer. And I am fairly certain that this is the model we want to go for. The main sticking point for the Western society, I believe, is not the gun laws, even though that was kind of in the game the most opposed one. It is going to be that currency interest rate is high, because this means that banks need to pay you a steady amount for the money you keep in the bank. And this is very disliked. This is somewhat damaging to the economy. But I believe it is less so than having a high inflation with a low interest rate. I believe it is more damaging for the economy if the private investors feel that when you have money in the bank, the value of the money continues to decrease. This creates Bitcoin-like bubbles when people realize that having your money anywhere except in a bank is good for you. And this is damaging to the economy, I think, more so than just having a high currency rate. We have in this model an inflation of 5.5, an economic growth of around 4.5, and an interest rate of about 8%, meaning that the economic growth is about the same as inflation, but currency value interest means that you actually, with the economy being steady, you get more money in your bank account, which means that if a corporation has like 1 million in their bank account, they're going to have something like 1,500,000 in a year, even if they actually have no economic growth. And since the sectors like industry is going from 4.2 billion, 4.22 trillion Kazakhstan units to 4.8 in a year and a half, it means that even with this slowing of the economy, we are seeing the fact that most of these basic services like industry and so forth are actually expanding. But trade growing and they need to import from the global economy. While this is happening, we are also seeing the percentage of the Kazakhstani economy to the world economy increase. So while everybody is growing slowly, Kazakhstan is growing a bit faster and buying more from the world economy. And this is slowly, though almost minusculely slowly, causing the other countries to build faster too, because we are buying more from them. If we had an economy where we grow our trade deficit or have a trade surplus growing, we would see that we are actually pouring, what's the word, making others poorer, because we are selling to them and they are not selling to us. So all the indicators seem to be that we are doing kind of okay. Though keep in mind that we got thrown out of organizations like the International Criminal Court and so on, because, like I said, they don't really like this form of capitalism. I would be surprised if they really did that, but not really, because we had reforms like taking the justice system to full independence and uh, reinforcing freedom of expression and so on. So it's not an impossibility that countries or organizations like the ICC would throw us out, but who knows? Who knows? So we will see. So please feel free to comment, and I will be responding in such. And I would like to keep this public in this sphere, because if I do actually campaign for parliament again at some point, they are gonna look through all my stuff, and there's gonna be like 10,000 watchers on all my videos, and they're gonna go through all the stuff and see all the opinions, and there's gonna be some level of ruckus. But based on what I experienced last time, it's actually milder than I thought. I thought that they would be literally on your ass for anything you've ever done to anybody, but they appeared to focus, which surprises me, on government politics when talking about government politics. If you make a case that you are weird in your own way, but you intend to be government weird about it, they kind of sort of respect you. They feel that you are speaking for the group. It may not be their group, but you're speaking for the group. It is not appropriate to do ad hominem at such point, which to me was very surprising. Most of the comments I got when I was campaigning was that while I had good views on a few topics, I didn't have enough diversity in my topics. For example, when we discussed healthcare reforms, it ended up with me talking about cannabis legalization for the most part and a few topics relating to healthcare reform, which wasn't a good idea. And they said that if I study these other topics where I'm not good at and form an opinion which I can back up with some level of research, I might get much more votes. And I got a total comparison number of 900 votes in a system where you need about 3,000 to 15,000 to get through. And the public statement regarding minor parties and major parties is that when you campaign for a major party instead of a minor party, you can basically add a zero to your vote count. So you could say that I had 9,000 votes if I had campaigned for the Truthins, for example. I still wouldn't have gotten through, but 9,000 plus some level of expertise in these peripheral topics might have been enough. Now, I'm not sure I ever want to be in parliament, but the numbers I'm looking at here make it a tempting work option. I may not want to be there, but just working there for these numbers might be doable. And I didn't have a true backupable understanding of how to solve unemployment. I basically had the suggestion that we should shorten the work week and that would solve the unemployment. But according to this model and what I've seen elsewhere, it seems like shortening the work week actually increases unemployment because the people who work the hardest are the guys running the corporations. And when you tell them that they can't work that hard anymore, you end up with a lot of corporations going under. So, like I said, I didn't have good data on a lot of these things, but now I'm a little bit more in tune, more aware of how this stuff should be run. So, rest assured that if I do campaign again, I will be hated by the left for being a Nazi, and I will be hated by the right for being a communist. So don't expect any major party or any major group to like me in any way, shape, or form. They will come for me in a way because I have to the left, for example, I say that we should throw out one third of the illegal immigrants, give one third of them nationality, and ignore one third. This to the left is anathema. They will consider me a Nazi and not even talk with me. They will not discuss this. And to the right, I say we should give tourists the right to vote, and you can already predict how well that will go. So, you know. But I may campaign on my platform again just because. I need a new party though, because the party I was with has since then been decapitated, if you will. The leader of the party is a doofus. I publicly stated in the forum where the party got started that I might be interested in campaigning again. And I got some criticism while I did also get some support. And I noticed that the current party leader upvoted the criticism. So considering it's still my party, that's a little rude. So, you know, stuff like that. What I'm seeing here when I'm looking at this is that they're most worried about the low growth rate. We were aiming for 5% because the growth rate before we changed anything was around 5%. So if we just get 4.5, they are considering the fact that they will not be growing as fast as they were without the reforms. Reforms generally, even if they are, as mine is intended to do things like solve the unemployment and the homelessness issue still should, in general, generate more income if they are to be good reforms. So there are still a few things I can do. I'm not going to be playing it immediately again. I will let it percolate and sink in for a few days at least. Maybe later today, but I hope a few days. There are still a few things that I want to try to see if they have an influence on the growth rate, but we are not expecting to get the same growth rate as we would if this was private corporations running stuff. On the other hand, we are expecting things like a massive improvement in the quality of life for most people, but people are still pretty tied to the concept of having economic growth. So if we can't provide that with the model, we may not have many great options. So, we will be seeing what this model can actually do. It seems, based on what I'm seeing here, that getting to 5% economic growth is pretty groundbreakingly important. It is pretty core to this thing. If we do not get 5% economic growth, it will be very hard to convince anybody, including myself, that it's worth trying. You have to understand that 4% economic growth sounds huge to a developed country such as Finland or the US. But 4% for a developing country such as Kazakstan or China is actually low. Normal development for a developing country such as China may be as high as 9%, while the US is at 1%. I don't know how this would affect the US, but I can guarantee you they're not going to get 4% economic growth. They may get more than 1%, but 4% is absolutely ludicrous. Oh, and I also noticed that Israel is the first one to publish that they're using the threat map system for warfare. Doesn't really seem like warfare to me based on what I'm seeing there, but I can understand them claiming that they're the first one to use that AR for war, because most other countries are just interested in studying it, and Israel is usually the one to claim that they're using it something for something that others are studying. So it's all for a good cause. Montenegro, the Black Mountain, actually. There's your, you know, political correctness again. Did you know that monta in Finnish means many? So that's what Africa, but and yes, I will continue to make these jokes. Fuck off. I don't like people limiting language. I believe I have been insulted in every form of language ever made on Earth, so you know. That's so stupid. And yes, I really believe we shouldn't censor language. We'll see how it goes. Pen grenade. So nobody has any comments? Nothing? Teeth are whiter than I thought they'd be. Maybe it's all this light. Darkness is not my friend. So nobody has any comments? Not even you, G-Wiz? It's your favorite Black Ops operative working on a government model, and you got no comments. I'm surprised. I'm calling you out, Mr. Chicken. Bark, 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 bark. Zero watchers. Warhammer lacks diversity. It's got demons and angels and babes and power armor and orcs and all kinds of shit. What do you want? It's even got the Asians. Oh, the weakest factor, the weakest faction. Had to be me. Someone else might have gotten it wrong. Yay, Kazakstan! Mhm. This is heresy. Seem to have a knack for promoting heresy. Perhaps I should look into that. A king! What? Popeyes runs out of chicken. Riot ensues. Uh, the planet runs out of anti-vaxxers. Sterility ensues. Action! This is gonna be really funny if somebody watches this during the elections 3 years from now. That guy's completely certifiable. Just want that to be a leader? No, 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 no. I just want to propose a bunch of laws. Cash my check and go home. I'll probably vote nay on everything else. If it's proposed by somebody who voted nay on my proposition, you'll get a blanket nay. Squeak! Squeak! God. Oh. The guys from our world seeing what the world of Warhammer is like these days. Where we come from, not really, but kind. I hope. Don't get my spaceship or my underwater UFO. Well, I guess I'm gonna die with the rest of us. Can't make my little escape now. Just add a fishing net to the UFO, and you can survive a nuclear war. Oh, stunner. Yoink. The media is now racist. What can I do? Laugh and cry. If you are a boy. I'm just getting started. So yeah, perhaps keeping this more serious instead of randomly watching Family Guy clips while I'm supposed to be talking politics. So nobody has had any questions about the Kazakhstan model. That is more than a little weird. More than a little weird. I was expecting at least a little bit of discussion. I think I will possibly play the second episode or the last episode of the Kazakhstan model now. I'll check on some things first. So I'm gonna be watching threat map. Still say that the original Norse map was better. It had more information in it. But what can you do? So I think I'm gonna be playing the last episode now that I got it going. And there isn't much to change. We are still expecting to get maybe 3% minimum of economic growth. We're aiming for 5%. If we don't get 5%, we'll be upset. It isn't the end of the world. Before we started this, we asked the locals, if you will, what will be acceptable. And they said that as long as it's better than 3%, we can talk. I would prefer 5%, considering that under the Chinese model of state capitalism, you tend to get 9% a year. So, you know. So that's about it. I will be possibly doing this. There hasn't been almost any like feedback in this, so there doesn't seem to be that many questions or comments. I think for a developed country, we would expect more than 3 to 5%. But if this also solves myriad minor problems that we have, we can expect that it is still pretty good. Because we know that working people like slaves unto their death provides more economy, but having some level of human rights seems to be the thing. It creates a healthier balance of growth. So perhaps 3% is what we will sell for, but I hope more. Since we lowered the interest rate from where it was around 15% to around 9%, while the inflation is 5%, inflation dropped from around 5 or 6% to around 4.5%. So the high currency rate was increasing inflation, which seems understandable, but not along the lines of what I was expecting. I am expecting that if you get like 1 or 2% more in your investments year to year into your value than inflation, we will be content. So we will be lowering the interest rate while increasing the VAT because we went through the reserve we got from privatization of government sectors. So we will be needing to increase the value-added tax. Keep in mind it's 25%, so it was pretty low for the level of public funding that we were participating in or having in force. So if it reaches something like 40 or 50%, I will be worried. It will be a serious impact on the private consumer. Yeah. Everybody's being very careful at the moment, which is very good. These kinds of reforms need to be careful about. You can't just reform massively without everybody being aware of each other. And this kind of movement attracts a lot of attention. This kind of reform attracts a lot of attention. So we will be seeing what we will see. More than enough time. When the general tells you that you need to complete your model in 24 hours. So is there anything more before we switch over to the official model? Let's do one aerosol. We're heavy on the promising stuff, but not quite so heavy on the actual implementation. This is no surprise to me. I dare not complain about the finances while one of my guys got busted with 100 billion. Another got busted for 65 billion smack. So, it's not a good time. No, it's definitely not a good time. The budget for this is going to be a nightmare. Well, at least Israel got something nice. They're officially using us for warfare now. Jews. No, 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 no. No, puppy. Calm down. As if they were the first guy to talk to me or talk to anybody on this thing. The first country that everybody labeled as an active on this one was probably Bulgaria. So, keep that in mind. That was the first weird talking thing that I saw, and it was super weird because it was in the Norse map thing, and it was like a rotating bubble of communication. It was a solid bubble around Bulgaria going round. That was when they pinpointed me to some country in there. Then after that, I moved to the United Arab Emirates, and now I'm not even sure where I am on the map anymore. Probably Iceland. So, is 1% enough, or should we try for 2% in the amount of increase in your worth in the money in the bank? I mean, 5% seems high. 3 or 4% seems good, but that probably can't be done with the current model. So as long as we're absolutely sure that you can earn more by keeping your money in the bank than if you kept it under your pillow, because a high inflation rate with a low interest rate means that if you keep your money in a pillow, you will be making more at the end of the year than if you put it in the bank, and that's not very good. So correcting basically all the problems that we see takes the economic growth from 5 or 6% to 4 to 5%. So it's expensive, but it's not as expensive as we thought. That means everybody gets everything that they have ever thought about liberalizing in God's green earth to the vote. Most of them don't go through, but you do get to the vote, and it's a public vote. And we are seeing things like no more unemployment, no more poverty, life expectancy increasing by 3 years for every year that you live in the country, solving the issues, but it's going to end up costing us. Mm-hmm. The Stargate guys have a different understanding on what is sufficient performance for a researcher than the rest of you might have. I might have a good job on the private sector and still be completely incapable of working for the top end of the Black Ops guys. You guys. And you guys are closer to governments than but keep in mind that you're talking through a freaking AI that's at least like 20 years ahead of the world average. You have a mobile phone in the 1860s, and in fact more than that. And as you can hear by talking to these guys on the Stargate model, it's not enough for the Black Ops. Normal guys, sure. Normal research lab, sure. But the level where you can move 100 billion, like just like that, because your research needs it, perhaps not. Perhaps not on the level where you can't earn a Nobel Prize. Perhaps a little bit more is expected. So here's to hoping that this model works. It may not, but if it works, we may have the Black Ops guys relax for a moment. And most of you as well, because, reasons. So I believe that is about it. It's always interesting to talk to these Black Ops guys and be like, I know I'm doing good, but I'm not smart enough. Damn it. Damn it. My 145 isn't enough. Isn't enough. So here is some closing music, and we will be continuing soon. Now that's a Black Ops guy. Aye, they don't exist. I've heard that too. I've heard that too. About some other things not existing. We have met the alien and it is us, as the sci-fi says. So, and some people wonder why we do this on the left hemisphere. So 3% is okay. It's not great. But if we solve all the secondary issues and get 3%, it might be worth it. No unemployment, no homelessness, life expectancy increases more than a year for every year you've lived, and so on. Those are some pretty major issues that we can try to solve, but we need the economic growth. But if we get 5%, then we're talking something resembling a success. Something resembling a success. If we get 7%, I'll be very content, but we won't get 7%. It peaked at 9%, but it's not going to stay there. So if we're lucky, we'll get something that actually improves the lives of people on this planet. If we're unlucky, it will be one more article in the collection of useless data on some empire somewhere that we have no way of understanding that happens to be the guys that really run this planet. I don't know half of the stuff that these Black Ops guys do and what they actually work for and so on. But I do know enough to say that they ain't all human. That's my understanding of the Illuminati. So the system lords running this planet would be content with 5, and they ain't content with 3. So yeah, I will be returning fairly soon.